Hey there, this is Red Falcon. This is the ninth match of the 2022 Summer Wargame Red Dragon Microdeck Tournament Series. With me today is my co-host Trout, and today we have Red Brigade versus the Baddies. We have Red Brigade on Team Red, and we have the Baddies on Team Blue. So Trout, guy words and step before we get into it.
As usual, I'm stoked. This is looking up to be a very exciting match. Interestingly enough, we've had a lot of play on gunboat diplomacy. So, talking to Red, I guess that is partially due to how the maps were rolled. Um, that being said, good map, interesting fights, interesting positions. We get some naval action, we get some city fighting action. So, very much looking forward to the fight. Um, the baddies are a very fun team to watch with playing a NATO deck, which means it's kind of atypical for the server. A lot of interesting assets, interesting plays, and playing against the Red Brigade, who is always fun, always interesting, always just some very cool memes. So it'll be a good match. It'll be fun to watch. I am stoked, excited.
Absolutely. With Kaggernaut, Marine, and Z, we can expect some really good memes.
Good stuff.
Indeed. All right. So, let's take a little couple notes here before we get into the launch match. We got an attack marker over here just by the naval corridor. It looks like Marine wants to try to do something over there. We shall see how that goes. And then we also got a couple attack markers between Charlie Delta. So it looks like there might be a plan to park some ships over by Alpha and try to shut down that bridge. Um, it looks like Z is going to look for dropping what I'm guessing is going to be a command over here on the attack marker, because that's a very kind of like nice little spot to put into. And something that people often kind of miss about this map is that if you go over the mountain on the backside, um, there is a path you can take, almost like a goat trail, that allow you to climb a mountain with vehicles. Um, and it looks like Spaghetti is looking to cover a large anti-aircraft net to try and shut down the airspace on their side of the river, which is a solid play. But we shall see how it goes. And I assume this WA over here by Delta is probably meaning AA, but just a little typo.
I'm very interested in seeing that Autumn has a point on India and a point just above India as marked off as primary and secondary firing positions. I'm guessing for units that will have that as an effective firing corridor have to be tanks, potentially with ATGM.
Yeah,
Um,
looking at Om's units, it looks like they've got some Challenger 1 Mark IIIs. These are no slouch when it comes to armors. They've got 20 frontal, 28, 21 AP power at 8 rounds a minute. These things are behemoths even alone, let alone having them triple stacked. So we're going to see, I think, some really interesting plays here.
that being said, as well, to mention the secondary firing position is a fairly aggressive position. I say that because it requires a bridge crossing either of one of two locations in a place that will be very heavily contested. So that could potentially become dangerous. So I'm interested to see uh, how that goes, how that happens.
Absolutely. And kind of noting here, Autumn is also packing some Stormer HVMs. Their long range could really be of assistance in helping these tanks deal with IFVs as well as helicopters.
Absolutely. The long range against helicopters really puts some pressure on the Red 4 helicopters. It kind of outranges their ETGMs and keeps them back from really being able to engage as effectively in the fight.
Absolutely. Although it looks like we got Kager opening up with a couple SA 342s and some TIE 90s, and I'm not sure how well they'll stack up against those Star Streaks or those Stormers, but we shall see.
Well, there is one way to see. Would you like to begin the countdown?
We shall. All right, three, two, one, let's go. So we got Z here. I believe he is playing North Korean armored, and he's gonna have a Tomahawk 5 escorted by two T-62Ds. That's just kind of opening light, but it definitely offers some firepower in small packages.
Looking at Marine, it looks like Marine has pulled a either Red Dragons or a Chinese deck. I'm guessing it is probably a Marine deck,
So
given that it is Marine.
yeah, it could be. Uh, Could be Red Dragons, but I believe it is Chinese Marines.
I think it's straight Chinese Marines.
So we got Bubble getting into defensive positions here with their K1s.
Looking at the baddies, I see Bubble moving out very aggressively to Alpha to get some infantry out, to get some anti-air out. That could be a very strong positioning early match, and definitely help cut off any air that's going through that area.
Oh yeah. We got Block 52D flying over Alpha for combat air patrol, it looks like.
Nice quick deploy by Kager, command and some special forces out to the far side of Gulf. And so that really helps set something out on that kind of that far side to keep an eye on the bridge. It's not recon, but it'll definitely
Also,
be something
we
there.
have a JH7 going in. Looks like it's going in for first blood. And that's the opener. Akarzit was destroyed by anti-tank missile. You got some stormers. Looks like they're opening up on the one of the hots. Yep. And there goes the hot.
As mentioned, those stormers are extremely potent against Red 4 helicopters,
Oh,
so
absolutely.
very good unit choice, just to suppress and keep those helicopters from being efficient in the fight.
Oh, absolutely. But they're also quite impressive against any helicopter. They've got 3150-meter range against helicopters. So it doesn't matter if you're blue 4 or red 4. That range is impressive. We've got some kills going on over here. Looks like we got an amphibious landing in one of the islands over Alpha. And Bubble has eliminated the command unit that was sitting in Alpha. And looks like we've got
Wasn't quite
a Lafayette coming in also. And a couple of ASF kind of performing combat air patrol at this point. Trying to swipe out some of these helicopters. Reporting back over
had
in
a
Gulf.
fairly early loss there of a plane. Not quite sure what it was, but something got shot down, and anything getting shot down at these X is going to be moderately expensive, 100 plus points. So something you want to be careful with.
So we got Z bringing in a B5 trying to nuke out some of these helicopters. But looks like the helicopters got out in just the nick of time.
One thing I want to mention, looking at the baddies, they have done a very successful deployment into India. Very aggressive with the infantry, very aggressive with the supporting assets with chieftains. Successfully getting some Roviet into towns on both sides of India there on the Red Brigade side of India. And that's a really strong early push into there, and it really does secure one of the bridgeheads over. It keeps it fairly safe for bringing reinforcements to that area.
Yep, they brought in a number of tanks and mostly just rushed their APCs into the towns to kind of help dig in and secure the bridges on both sides. And that's really going to be a big help for them early off to try to pull in more vehicles. Looks like I like a little marine landing happening over here in Alpha. We've got some WZ-551s coming over here to try to deal some damage. And looks like we got the Lafayette firing on an MI1. So if Red Brigade is paying attention, they should realize that there is a ship over here in Alpha now.
Taking a quick look over the back lines, on the baddie side of the map, we have two fobs, so a good amount of supply throughout sustained throughout the match.
Hmm.
And on the Red Brigade side, we have zero fobs. So all of their supply will be reliant completely on vehicles coming in to provide that supply.
And if the Marine player has a Mona, that might offer them some additional supply elements, but there is no guarantee on that. So it looks like Autumn is reporting that they're going to bring anti-air over by Gulf, because they're looking pretty thin over there. And that's probably not a bad idea, considering that the SA-342 HOTS and some Mi-8Ts over here.
Absolutely. Looking over what they've got good reconnaissance, they've got nice infantry presence, but there's not a lot of armor and there is not a lot of AA. So that is a good move early on to make sure that area is secured.
And Red Brigade is finally calling in a command for Charlie, trying to secure it. Which does kind of bring up an interesting point. Uh, that was an interesting choice for Red Brigade to focus on securing Alpha before they focus on securing Charlie. Because Charlie gives you a +2, whereas Alpha gives you a +1.
That is a really good point. We have got 116, 118 points now to 14 points. And so that definitely gives the baddies a pretty solid early point lead. Looking at some secondary assets, Bolt Bathis is just bringing in a K9 Thunder, and Spaghetti is just bringing in some Mar 290s.
Oh yeah,
So
we're gonna watch
we're
the.
beginning to see some artillery
Yeah,
play.
we're gonna see this Mar 290 fire its trash can launcher, and we'll go from there. Following the rockets, let's see where they go.
Are you excited? I'm excited.
Absolutely excited. So looks like we've got an attack marker by Spaghetti. He's hitting some own infantry blocks over here. I think he's trying to hit what might be some supporting elements, but there's just nothing at the position he's firing on. But he did. The fourth one did knock out a couple ZBD 86s,
And those poor Luzandu, they took 4 casualties from that large rocket coming in for them.
and they are all absolutely panicked. Even the ones that weren't necessarily near the blast zone are shaken and worried. Also, we got Z's Weisong Chung's getting artillerized by what I think are K9s, and the Lafayette's are coming in to begin firing. Anti-ship missiles are inbound. Whoa, that's a lot of fucking missiles! Holy shit!
That would make you proud, wouldn't it? That is a nicely coordinated anti-ship strike, and it indeed took out one of those Lafayette's and
It stood
blew out
no
the other one.
chance! There must have been, god damn, 16 missiles. At least. Just absolutely dunked. Bubble is in retreat and disbelief. Holy shit.
Well, if there is a textbook way to bring in anti-ship planes, that is it. And very effective, massive overwhelming force, massively successful.
Absolutely dunked on. Just absolutely. That does me proud. I'm very proud. Absolutely proud of Red Brigade.
Another Lafayette coming in, so that loss has been, taken in, and
Yep.
reinforcements are en route.
Yeah, given the microdeck format, given that you're only going to get one capital ship card and losing one Lafayette, that's a third of the naval presence of what we've seen so far of Bubble Bath is having. All right, so we got some ZBD 86s trying to shoot that Stormer, but just kind of losing track because the concealment rate is coming back too fast before they can maintain that lock on. And this is a good point about reconnaissance.
Very nice micro as well.
Yeah.
Every time that Stormer fires, it is being microed back and brought forward as well.
Oh yes, it is. That is a solid play.
That's a very solid micro.
And the Stormer just has an impressive speed compared to the Malyuka missile. Unfortunately, those ZBD-6s did not stand much of a chance. But
Well,
they did.
that Stormer did not either.
But those J7s came in and did the sweep. Oh,
I will say, very nice use of JH7s. Very good counter anti-air fire.
yep. And those tornadoes were able to retaliate and take with the JH7. All in all, very solid counterplay by the baddies.
Attempted command sniping right now. There is a Jeep, one of Marine's Jeeps up in Alpha. And the baddies somehow I think have spotted it, or kind of are guessing it's
Yeah,
there,
I
and they are
believe
doing.
I believe they're blind firing, but their shells could deal enough damage that if one of the shells randomly hits the command, it would technically be enough to kill it. The 780 shell from the K9 Thunder, that is enough to kill that thing outright on the first slap.
I will also mention in terms of artillery, at this point, Spaghetti has pulled 3 290s, so there is a lot of rockets and a lot of very big rockets available to dump on a target. So I'm interested to see where those fire to.
And the anti-air that's sitting on the other side of the river in India just took with the J8. That hurts. But we've seen multiple different kinds of ASF from Kakarnot, so I don't believe he's quite in the concerning area right now. Spaghetti coming over here with some Rams. Unfortunately, they do not look like they're having a good time.
A little bit of a
The
risk,
second
bringing
Ram gets out.
a little bit of a risk bringing those interceptors over Gulf and over the enemy territory. However, pays off. There is no significant anti-aircraft over that area, and those ASFs get away scot-free.
Absolutely. I'm falling on some mortars. Um, so we might be seeing some smoke. Might be seeing just some general shelling of the town. But so far, it looks like there's kind of like a staring contest between the Rovates and Luzandois, and see how that goes.
I'm not terribly surprised. This early in the match, with not even 50 minutes gone in the match, uh, the main place I would expect there to be a contest is India, and given that there isn't, very
Oh, we
much
got an
building a
anti-ship plane. We
force
got
and building a
anti-ship
facet.
planes inbound to Alpha. Oh, here we go. They's going to ride or die. This Lafayette.
I will say those Lafayette's, with just 2 of them there, there probably isn't the density to successfully defend against this many anti-ship planes coming
Another one sunk.
in. I'm afraid to say I'm correct. Yes, another one is sunk, and that many anti-ship planes, that well coordinated, you would have a very, very, very strong anti-air net to defend against that.
Absolutely. And we got the B.
Very solid coordination and a very nice play
Oh, the B5 is
by the
coming
Red
to
Brigade.
deny that landing of the KM 900 there. Nuked. Just nuked. And that is how you deal with marine landings.
Taking a quick look over the front lines, very interesting defensive strategy over Charlie and Foxtrot by the Red Brigade. They're holding their assets fairly far back, and they don't have a huge amount of reconnaissance. Just a couple T-55 recon tanks. They're there, and if something crossed the bridge, they would spot it and respond, but it's not a huge defense in depth, and not a lot of anti-air.
Oh, the mock bet just got sniped up by the J87. Unfortunately, it is not going to make it home. We're seeing
A little bit of
we're seeing a
painful
triple
loss.
stack of Mar 290s over here. Looks like they're going after.
Oh yes,
They're firing where that T-72M is, which is probably more or less fortunate for Z that he only has one tank there. But it's absorbing those missiles like a champ.
very hard target for sure. Something I'm learning more and more so is decent tanks are not a decent target for heavy artillery. You'll stun them, you'll panic them, but you probably won't kill them.
Yep. And we're seeing Kaganop trying to pull out a what I believe is all of his SA 342 hots, and probably try to see if he can get some damage in, and try to turn this thing around. We shall see. I think it shall be tricky a bit. Oh, and we got something interesting in the field now. Z has brought two T90Ss into the field. That's a very hefty investment for card and point wise.
I will say, 50 minutes into the match, we're at 202 points to 20. So solid point lead from the baddies. However, there is no current increasing point lead. So we'll see where things go.
We got J7H dropping a 1,000 kilogram bomb on these Rovates and taking out 20 of them in the blast. Big 23 MLs engaging the ram. And the second ram is downed. Good airplay by Z.
Nice P5 shot right on some chieftains. Didn't quite kill them, but definitely very, very heavily damaged.
Oh, yep, we see a big crater. The Challenger 1 is worried and detracked, and the chieftains are down to 1 hit point each.
I will say, very, very unsuccessful helicopter attack over through Gulf. Really solid Stormer HVM air defense there. You know, there wasn't a lot down there earlier, but now there's some Stormers, and those helicopters got eaten alive. Without armor assets and without other things defending them, as soon as the anti-air's there, they cannot
And we just saw the
uh,
T-90Ss take out
successfully
a
engage.
Challenger 1 Mark III. But Z has gotten cold feet, and he's pulling back. Understandably so. Yep, he's doing a full withdrawal of the forest. Stormers out here, yep, just slapping out these hots, unfortunately. Unfortunately for Keggernaut.
Autumn has just brought a command chieftain into Gulf, and so right now that has neutralized the Gulf being taken by Red Brigade, and baddies have a +1.
Looks like we see a platoon of T-62Ds and a section of T-62Ds moving over towards Gulf in India. Oh, we're seeing another anti-ship strike. Here we go. No, the third Lafayette is downed, along with a Super Hornet.
Well, if you want to do a textbook anti-ship strike demonstration, that is it. Every single time those anti-ship planes have come in, they have taken a ship very successfully, very aggressively, and undisputably.
Yep, those. I believe that Marine is probably taken 3 cards of anti-ship planes for his 3 naval cards, meaning that yeah.
Interesting choice. Definitely limited in terms of what they can do, but that is a lot of firepower.
Mhm. And it's absolutely unexpected uh, by uh, by the baddies. We see some Super Hornets from Spaghetti trying to do some combat air patrol because they can't do too much else. But it seems useful. Oh, you got the V5 being engaged by the Super Hornets. Takes 1 missile, but it looks like it's going to make it home. And we got another bomb that's being dropped. Doesn't seem to have claimed anything, but definitely panicking the units there. And Z is doing a push with T62Ds. Fortunately for him, his T62Ds are being engaged by Rovates. They aren't going to last long if they don't have artillery support on those towns.
Yeah, they're all panicked. They're all taking fairly heavy damage. So this tank attack is not looking good unless something can support them and keep them from being panicked.
J7H is looking to drop a bomb on these Rovates, it looks like. Yep.
One thing to mention with the Rovates is they are without laws. They have fired all their anti-tank rockets, and they cannot defend themselves at this point against those tanks.
And looks like we see a triple stack of Habyongs over in Alpha, getting close to the command that Marine has in Alpha. This is pretty interesting in the sense that we've been seeing like a small island fight filled with infantry and IFBs just kind of happening. Um, it has been a interesting sort of battle for this island, which seems fairly mundane and unimportant.
One thing to mention, you know, I might not be correct in this, but in India, Z is pushing in. He is engaging the Rovates. He's successfully causing them to fire all the laws. There's no infantry to support that. They're just coming in now, and so without infantry to support that, you can't capitalize on taking that area and driving the Robiets out.
Yep, and we see Platoon of Challenger 1 Mark IIIs coming in. This is going to shut down these Wei Song Chungs unless something happens right now.
And that is a moment for either you want smoke to cover that advance, or you want to have that advance coordinated with your tank attack to make sure that that infantry is in place and ready to go by the time the tanks do their job.
Absolutely. But the T-90Ss are still staying back. They are not being utilized, despite a prime opportunity to engage those Challenger 1s. But Marine has managed to make a push across the town over here with two double stacks of Luzandoy. Um, but we are seeing an artillery strike, and it is devastating Marines infantry. And the tanks demolish those Luzandoys.
Interesting to point out, Paul Vathis has now pulled out 3 K9 Thunders, so there's quite a bit more readily available artillery for the fatties.
Interesting maneuver. We see Bubble Bathist moving a UH-1H over here, potentially behind Bravo, but it is not packing any infantry. Is this a scare tactic?
I think it is potentially either scouting with a
Yeah, kind of like
vehicle
probing,
that is
yeah.
not all that useful. Yeah. You send something not as valuable in to see kind of what's there and what responds to it. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking over the Red Brigade's line right now, and there's literally 0 artillery. They have no mortars, they have no guns,
Hmm.
um, there's nothing in terms of artillery options, so they will not have the option to smoke, they will not have the option to use artillery fire to support an attack.
Yep, they can't prep a position besides dropping a B5 and nuking it. And maybe the JH7. J7H, sorry. Meanwhile, we see Spaghetti prepping the MAR 290s again, and they are beginning to fire. We shall see where the missiles land. Oh, alright. We are going on point. Yep. Those MAR 290s are directly hitting all these Luzandoy, taking out probably over 20 men in that artillery attack. Looks like Marine has noted that there's a platoon of Chieftain Mark IIs over here on the side of the map, and Kager is going to move in to try to snipe them out with his SA-342s, which is interesting because they're not being supported by reconnaissance helicopters. And the Stormer is at it, but it's shooting at these WZ-551s.
Just something to mention, interesting attack with the angle they're coming in at, they're definitely exposed to that Stormer HVM,
And,
and
and despite how close those hots are to the Chieftains, they can't see them without recon.
yeah, a little bit of an expensive attack, definitely a fairly quick and painful exchange.
Absolutely.
So we're not seeing artillery, but we are seeing some tanky Chow Chow. And there's an attack marker, and they are firing.
We are seeing a couple bombing runs by Kagernaut, dropping some 1,000-kilogram bombs. Just kind of dampening those revates. Right now, we're kind of witnessing the battle between artillery versus bombers. It feels like.
Definitely a tough fight. The artillery, one of the advantages is, unless you get right to it, you can't really counter it. Whereas with bombers, you can definitely put up anti-air artillery. You can definitely put up Stormer HVMs, and those bombers are you can lose them very much so. Whereas with the K9 Thunders and with the rocket artillery, you won't lose them with the fire unless there's effective counterbat.
So I'm seeing that there's only one Challenger Mark 1 over here and two missing T90Ss. I believe I might miss the exchange, but I believe what might have happened is that two Challenger 1 Mark 3s died, and but they were able to outgun the T90Ss uh, by having that extra +1 tank in their platoon. While these T-72Ms are trying to fire back, they are certainly able to damage the tanks, but they cannot absorb them quite the damage quite as well. But they are doing some damage. B5 absolutely just doing numbers, but not enough to dislodge this Challenger 1. And it's still not even panicked. It's worried. And it just had a B5 drop right on top of it.
I will say a really solid placement of assets early in the match by the baddies. Very good aggressive attack to India with essentially all the necessary components to really keep that as a nice forward operating base and kind of a good foot into India and into the Red Brigade side of the map. Being able to hold that bridgehead and safely be able to bring reinforcements in is important.
Looks like we're seeing some replacement tanks for the old platoon of the Challenger 1 Mark 3s. So now that position is getting barely reinforced with just a few tanks and an infantry that look like they are about done from the baddies, but they're still hanging in there. But unless there's an assault by Marine and Z to push into this other side, they may be able to reinforce it enough to hold it. But this is kind of one of those moments where it's the fog of war. Even though Marine Z might have the logical amounts to effectively kind of push this area, without the assets to provide smoke for cover or anything like that, or artillery to continue suppressing the town, there is just going to be no advances at all.
Interesting move by Z. Not super effective. Some Mi-25s. I mean, not the most expensive helicopters, but definitely a good attack helicopter and aggressively pushed forward towards India and very, very quickly and very effectively shot down by some Stormer HVMs.
Yes, that was quite painful to watch. Looks like we got the K9 Thunder spinning up again. See where they're pointing off towards. Looks like they're firing towards the island again. And while we weren't looking, it looks like Marine and Kagger were kind of able to resecure Alpha. Or at least resecure the island that the command unit is on. And there they are. The artillery is off again. I believe at this point the naval fight is done. There is no more ships for the baddies to call in. It doesn't. It seems. Um, I am not seeing anything besides an LCU and the Lafayette's that were sunk. And I'm not sure if they had a third card, but if they do, I am not seeing it. Or at least not in the not in the ocean. So they might have taken a plane of sorts.
All right, we're winding down on 30 minutes, so we're halfway through the match at this point. We're looking at 397 points for the baddies to 20 points for the Red Brigade.
Hmm.
Pretty tough situation. You know, it's just a slow, brutal +1,
Yep.
but it's enough.
Yeah. And the Red Brigade has not found a way to get to cross the ford the river, and the baddies are holding their +1 by uh, by just a bit, mostly with India.
I will say, having that foothold in India means that the Red Brigade cannot successfully get a command into India, and it's just denying them that +1 point that gives it a little bit of a lead. So it's really a question of whether or not the Red Brigade can successfully push into India, get them off that side of the river to neutralize that point bleed, and then something decisive after that. Uh, so definitely puts them in a hard position. The Red Brigade at this point has to make two successful attacks. They have to clear out India, and they have to clear out somewhere else in order to get to a +1 with only 30 minutes left in the match and a fairly heavy disadvantage in terms of points.
Yeah, and not seeing any ships from Marine, who I believe is playing Marines, that means that they can't really mount much of an assault on Alpha without using only using nothing but helicopters and APCs, and that could be rough. They may be able to drop B5s on it and try to randomly kill the command here, but I'm not seeing any coordinated B5 strikes on his island.
I will say, in terms of a combined arms attack, Red Brigade is going to have a very hard time because they don't have artillery, and they don't have. I mean, they have B5s. They have some reasonable attack helicopters, but they don't have the supply for it because they don't have FOBs. They've just got the Mi-6s, which are good, but it isn't quite a one-for-one replacement for a FOB. So, in terms of being able to use and mobilize large amounts of either helicopters, artillery, or some sort of fire support to support an attack, they may have a bit of a difficult time pushing into India or pushing somewhere else on the map.
And I would say that
Looking at
if there was a chance to get these ZTS 63-2s across the river, not having smoke means they can't really smoke that tree line and make it difficult for those challengers to fire at them, allowing them to close in and gain the upper hand. Without that smoke to do it, it's just dying out in the open with zero means of
also,
concealment. Sorry, go ahead.
also mention, just reviewing the FOBs on Batty's side, Spaghetti has drained a FOB. However, there still is a full FOB from Bubble Bathist, so we can expect artillery well and through to the end of the match at this point.
Absolutely.
See a GH7 coming out. At this point, with a very effective anti-air on both sides, just isn't a lot in this guys. It really has devolved into that brutal ground-on-ground, constant firefight and constant attrition.
Oh, well, we are seeing a B5 strike coming in. J7s too.
Interesting to see. I think I
Ooh.
spoke just too soon.
All the supplies
It's
and two
not.
Markavas were just nuked, and the Challenger ones are hanging on by a thread with that strike. That was a good B5 run.
I think I spoke at just the wrong time. I said, I don't think there's that much left for air, and the air showed up. So
Yeah, it was just Z was reaching through the fourth wall and saying, let's give him an air show." Here we go. We got another B5 run inbound. Super Hornet's over there. Super Hornet bomber B5 made it through. The bomb is coming in, taking out a Challenger 1. The other Challenger 1 is going home. It's had enough of these B5 strikes. That's that, that's technically not a unit route, but that is a player route. That's the mental game right there. Z may not have artillery, but the B5 is playing mental games. See another Mar 290 trying to get some retaliation. Dropping right on top of the Luzandoy. Absolutely devastating. All the two squads of Luzandoy downed, and a lot of them halved in their squad size. That is devastating. And considering that they're even inside of towns too. The mortars over here firing on these cargoes looks like they're just gonna saturate anything that they can spot out in the open with light mortar attacks. For whatever reason, though, they have not spotted this MI6 out in the open for the advantage of the MI6, I believe. So they can see a lot. If you look at Spaghetti's point of view or the baddie's point of view, they can see a lot of things in over here in Gulf, it looks like, or at least a few things. But it's enough to keep the mortars going and giving them targets. One of the Luzandoy looks, no, the Tankishu Show are out in the open, exposing themselves. This is a point of reminder that only one block squad of infantry can operate any city block at a time. Looks like we're seeing some Mi-25s going towards Alpha. This should be interesting. I believe Z is trying to see if he can get some kills over here and kill the command finally in Alpha. And it's starting. The mental game is working. Bubbles Bonbu is starting to move, but losing an Mi-25 in the process is a hard loss to take.
That being said as well, the Bonbu is moving, but there are quite a few other units in the way to prevent that Mi-25 from successfully engaging the Bonbu, so we can expect that neutralization of the point lead to be very, very short-lived.
Ooh, and those KM900 just got absolutely toasted by those by the Mi-25. JH7 is trying to come in, but to no avail, and absolutely intercepted by the Hornets and Block 52Ds. Kegger trying to get in some retaliation, but the missiles are just not getting close enough to lock on anything. Or maybe they were, but maybe they weren't targeting the right way. Looks like we have a B5 strike. Somewheres? Oh, on these Chieftain Mark IIs. Yep. Which is an interesting choice, but they certainly damaged the Chieftains, but I don't believe there's anything over here to follow up and engage. If Z would have probably hit this town with a Rove 8s in it, it might have given a Marine the final push he needed to get over there and get on those bridges.
Bit of an interesting attack here. So Z is moving some T-62Ds in to attack on India.
Yep, and the
So we're
Merkava
getting the point with
Merkava's out of ammo,
20
it looks
minutes.
like.
20 minutes left in the match where with a +1 point lead even, they need to do something and need to make a fairly major move. So Kagernaut was moving some helicopters forward to support, but there isn't a lot supporting those T-62Ds. It's going to be a very hard fight for them to successfully move in and really drive those infantry out of those towns.
Yep, and those Mar 290s coming in, pouring artillery on Kagernot, absolutely forcing all of his infantry to get panicked and stunned, and losing members of the squad to make them combat ineffective. Those Mar 290s have been doing work for this match. They take about a minute to reload, but once they start firing, once you got a triple stack, those are 12 rockets that can deal some real damage. Each one deals about 15 explosive damage, I believe.
So I guess I would call this a rock, paper, scissors reminder. If you're bringing in tanks, the rock, and you aren't bringing in paper, scissors, something to support them with, infantry or helicopters, artillery, something.
Yep.
And your opponent has that, you will lose them. That T-62D attack.
Oh, here we go. We got the B5 coming in on the Rove 8s. It's going to absolutely annihilate them. Nuked. Absolutely nuked. But the Challenger 1 Mark III firing on infantry over here, I believe it could deter Marine from crossing. One tank is sometimes all you need to deter an advance.
And to be quite frank, the advance has already been deterred. Those T-62Ds crossed the field and they died to the tank.
Mhm.
So
Meanwhile, we've got a Hellborn assault in Alpha. Looks like they are going for that Bamboo, and the Mistral is out of missiles. KM900s are trying to bring in some more Mistral infantry, but they won't make it in time, and they can't dismount while they're inside the transport.
and the Bond I think is actually finally spotted, so we might see a kill. There are some Harriers
Ooh,
coming in right now, so this might be just the timing they need to successfully engage those Mi-25s.
but not before having killed the Bamboo and the Mistrals that were heading for the island. The helicopter assault was successful. Whatever happens to the Mi-25s at this point,
I will
they went
say,
in, they did their job, they killed the command, and they've got they're locking horns on no more bleeding points now. So go ahead. Go ahead.
we're approaching 15 minutes left in the match. We have 554 points for the baddies to 20 points for the Red Brigade. So at this point in the match, very much the onus is on the Red Brigade to do something.
Yep.
And they've been trying. They have successfully neutralized the point lead, I believe, but it will continue to be a very, very difficult fight for them. And we see Bull Bathis bringing out another Bamboo to keep the point lead going.
And we see Marine trying to get into the town over there, but with all those Rovate there being supported by tanks, it's going to be a hard cross. Again, you could say they know where the tanks are, the missiles are firing, but they don't have enough recon to keep it spotted with exceptional optics, and even if they did, they could just fall back into the forest. What they actually need to smoke, and it's just not there for Red Brigade. And hilarious moment here. Haggernaut just gun run one of the mortars and killed it.
We'll see what gets away. Definitely an interesting use of those ASF.
That was interesting because Kager was able to fly all the way around and take very little in the way of heavy anti-aircraft fire, which kind of is a signaling that they do have some Stormers left, but I think they're finally thinned out in anti-air now after about 45 minutes into the match, which is fair.
Oh, not a huge loss. ASF shot down. 2 ASF shot down. We'll see if this JHC gets out or if it gets shot down as well.
Now, the Stormer HVM has nice range against planes, but even then, it has its limits on how it can deal with aircraft. It can deal with helicopters pretty well, 3150 meter range, but at 2450 meter range against planes, it has its limits. So it looks like
And
Haggernaut has tapped out. He's going to give more units to Z and Marine and hope that for the next 15 minutes they can pull something out of their you know what's. You know, I could curse in the beginning of the match and say big F bombs, but it feels out of place sometimes saying certain words at certain times. I'll never understand it, but. All right, meanwhile, we have Z pushing up over here with Chomo 5s, exposing their side, getting absolutely demolished by a Challenger, flanked by the Gimmels, and dead. Super Hornets engaging these 27 SKs over here. Oh, and managing down a Super Hornet too.
I will mention there are a couple different kinds of attacks in the military. You can do a hasty attack, or you can do a prepared attack. And a lot of these attacks have been fairly hasty, and without the ability to organize and sort of get supporting assets. A hasty attack with
We've been
tanks,
seeing
tanks alone.
We've seen kind of a furball
will be a very
happening over
painful
Alpha, it
attack.
looks like. Just a big furball.
I think that will probably be your shot for the match. A lot of planes,
The,
a lot of missiles, a lot of good stuff going on over
There's
there.
so many good like scenes happening right now between the furball, the anti-ship strike, where they're pouring about 16 anti-tank missiles or anti-ship missiles. There's a lot of like really iconic things happening here. I can enjoy this match however it turns out. Not to mention like all the little amphibious landings and the island fightings. Like that's not too often you get to see that in this game, I believe. I really do enjoy this kind of aspect of fighting the islands when there's like little resources left, and trying to desperately mount an assault. And that's this is like one of the products I think of the microdeck format.
Given that we have extra assets pulled, I don't see a critical amount of assets really at any point anywhere on the front for Red Brigade. So they will have a very, very difficult time moving forward at this point. Very successful, very persistent and stubborn defense of India by the baddies. Very solid early move and really keeping that bridge open to keep reinforcements coming into India to the Red Brigade side of it and making it very, very difficult to contest that point. Kind of looking down to the south of Gulf on the baddie side, they've also invested very nicely. They've spread out tanks, they've spread out recon and some light infantry and anti-air, all to the area south of Gulf. So it's very, very hard at this point to flank
Yeah,
around and really get a successful flank.
we're kind of seeing some blue on blue artillery happening here. Looks like Bubble has been using the artillery of the K9 Thunders, but not really updating the coordinates for rolling the artillery. And their units have been kind of walking into the K9 Thunder artillery strikes. But looks like they finally updated the coordinates, and they are hitting very close to the point where the infantry is stored in marine by marine, and we are seeing some direct hits now finally.
Nasty little fight in India for Marine. Some Shayat 13 coming in to fight the Luzandu. And I think the Luzandu will kill them, but the Fusiliers may finish off the Luzandu as a return favorite.
The Gimmel's over here providing the fire support that is desperately needed. Challenger 1 Mark III over here, having spent... Wow, that's a lot of ammo. That Challenger 1 Mark III has 41 rounds of ammo typically, and is down to 3. Get that tank a supply jeep.
Something I've just noticed with Spaghetti. Spaghetti has pulled just the straight Roviet and the Roviet 90. Interesting combination of units, allowing for some cheaper units to put out front and just kind of fill in the gaps, and some little bit strong units with a good ATGM for close range to really push off any nasty attacks.
Oh, the Rove 8 and Rove 8 90 are the same price cost. They have different stats though. The Rove 8 90 actually have worse guns, but the Rove 8 90 have better guns but worse RPG. It's kind of an interesting development for the Rove 8 90.
Looks like we have a desperate attack right now going on into Delta. We've got a column of tanks moving into a prepared defense. A very difficult attack without support. Those tanks will take casualties very, very quickly, and the K1s are definitely doing that.
Yep. Those things are not going to stand a chance against the K1s out here. The Chimo 5 maybe, but not the others.
And we have an AH-1T coming in very quickly, and that will begin pouring some pain down on those Shilmos.
Well, we got B5 coming on the K1s. Let's see how it goes.
We can always hope. A good B5
Ooh.
run is all worth cheering for.
Oh, that was good. Killed the K1, the other one's panicked, dead, and killed by the Chimo 5. I did not expect Z to pull out a win there, but for the moment he had it. But of course the H1T just had to say, "Fun's over."
But see, the second thing is moving into range of those Susek Dai. Not the strongest units out there, but any anti-tank rocket coming in from a different angle is definitely a threat to tanks moving forward.
And we got the Gimbals having occasionally getting some snipes here on T-72Ms that expose themselves to them. And the Challenger 1 Mark III is coming in as well. This could be a tough run for Z. Yep.
Right, we have another hasty attack going into India. We've got some T-72Ms coming in with a little infantry. Not a lot else coming in to support them, so the artillery is definitely coming down and punishing them very badly.
And that is a good rock artillery barrage. They may not have done a lot of damage, but they have panicked Z's units and worsened their accuracy for quite significant effect. Meanwhile, it looks like Marine is struggling to hold on to the island back in Alpha. The Havyungs are really have been really starting to pour in over here.
Definitely been a long fight for that island, and I think that command is going to be lost pretty much right now.
Yeah, man, it's been a hell of an island fight. The Havyungs have other words of what they think about the way those Waisong chunks coming up to the island. No parking allowed. Do not pass go.
No parking allowed. I think you are defending property rights there.
Well, I mean, they are the baddies.
You know what? I hadn't really thought about that, but that name may well be apt. All right, and we are rapidly approaching 5 minutes left in the match. 710 points for the baddies to 20 points for Red Brigade. At this point, even with it being a 0-0, no point bleed, that is a extraordinarily hefty lead and would require victory through command snipes. So at this point, it'll be extremely unlikely that the Red Brigade will be able to mount an assault formidable enough to punch through and really do some serious damage to the baddies.
Absolutely. See, parked a command in India just to cap off that lead out in the open, and just is like, all right, I'm just gonna park here and wait for something to happen. And the artillery came, and that I think kind of sums up the match. The artillery in this match was absolutely devastating by the end.
I will also say the artillery was absolutely, totally, and completely one-sided. There was no significant artillery presence from the Red Brigade, none at all. And the baddies brought out some mortars, they brought out some rocket artillery, and they brought out some K9 Thunders, and that has definitely given them a good selection of options just to pick away at, tear apart, and kind of brutally suppress any attack and any infantry trying to move in successfully attacking indeed.
and any planned attack, because we had seen the rocket artillery shelling engulf, where Marine, Kager, and Z have been holding their infantry waiting for a push.
Absolutely. The other thing to mention is supply. With that artillery coming in, you would need some fairly serious supply to maintain and
Uh,
repair the
But
units
hold on just
in
yet.
Gulf of India.
Hold on just yet. Hold on to your horses, Trout. We see Kager going in for a heli ball.
Oh,
Heli ball in the Delta.
it's very late with 3 minutes and 41 seconds left. I don't think it's going to win the match,
You know,
but it's always good to see that last minute effort. It's always good to see a bit of aggression and a bit of
and
vengeance pouring
the
out.
artillery is getting its just desserts. This is just catharsis right now. This is just
We just
catharsis.
saw another surrender there. Was that Spaghetti surrendering?
I believe so. Wait, yep, it
All
was, because
right.
Bubble is now pulling on a Lafayette.
Interesting choice for the end of the match. I'm wondering if that is specifically to counter air assets.
Well, there was a plane flying behind by the air and sea corridor that I believe Kager would have left, or Zeke would have left, or Marine would have left over there to just kind of troll the air spawn.
I will say with this Helleball, it has gone in, is aimed for commands, and it has left behind a Bonbu and it has left behind an exit Bekund in Delta. So not as successful as you might hope, but definitely a good, valiant effort.
Absolutely. You see the ZBD 86s coming in, trying to force their way into Delta, but they get absolutely mulched by those triple stack of K1s.
The position in Delta was definitely weakened for the baddies by those earlier attacks, but having brought in that triple stack K1s means people have an extremely hard time dismounting and advancing.
Oh, the B5s are coming in.
Take that point. Oh, and I am excited. Those K1s may have their just desserts. Oh, two
Close.
K1s down to 1 point apiece. Unfortunately, I think there is nothing in range to really deal with them at this point.
Nope. Even if Z wanted to, he could take his T62Ds, but they would just get mulched by the K1s crossing before they probably would even get a chance to fire back. That
Looking across,
17 frontal is just oppressive for those T62Ds to engage.
looking across the rest of the map, there isn't a lot of action anywhere else. So that push into
Hold on,
Delta
we
is
got
really,
MiG 29K going for a Lafayette solo.
having seen so many good combined efforts and so many good combined ship strikes, it's a little bit sad to see a single MiG-29 going in for a kill and dying quite brutally to a Lafayette.
Absolutely. I did get a missile through though, and that is something.
Oh, did
Yep.
it? Well, if you need a screenshot, that would be the one, the last missile breaking through.
I don't know. I think the entry one might be a real clickbaiter. When you see,
I think it'll be a bit more exciting. Absolutely.
uh,
A push by some T-62Ds, the last 30-second desperation, pushing into a lot of chieftains, a lot of tanks, and just getting torn to pieces.
yep, it's tough. It's tough watching this. You know, Marine wishes he had smoke to cover that bridge, or at least prevent the K1s from firing for a moment. But that's just not going
You
to
know,
happen.
I think Marine wishes he had another half a deck and another 30 minutes, and it's a fight that you're sad to see end at this point, but overall,
There it
extremely
is.
well defended,
Yep,
extremely well planned out, and extremely well fought by the baddies. The Red Brigade put in an excellent, excellent effort.
yep.
Just not quite the assets you'd want to really push them out of that extremely strong defensive position.
Absolutely. Red Brigade definitely made use of the units that they had to the best of I think, the ability that they could have in this fight, but they just didn't really have all of their bases covered with with any kind of artillery at all. Um, so it's hard to watch. You know, they had a solid fight. Uh, but they didn't have a lot of supplies. They didn't have artillery, and that the fact that it was the lack of artillery that I think that is really what did them in. They really tried to go hard for just sheer manpower, but they could not muscle their way through this one by sheer numbers alone.
I will say planes are excellent in a supporting role. Helicopters are excellent in a supporting role. Unfortunately, if there is a successful maintenance of an anti-air infrastructure on the enemy side, your planes and your helicopters just cannot deliver the same
Punch.
um,
Yeah,
punch as just a solid artillery presence. And really, really solid defensive artillery throughout the match by the baddies, and very much extracting a toll on the Red Brigade.
definitely. I think Spaghetti did the Spaghetti and Autumn. I think were really the ones to bring out a lot of the anti-air here. Um, Bubble, I believe, had some of their Mistrals, I believe, but now the Autumn that bring out the Star Streaks missiles, or the Stormers HVMs. We're doing quite a number at any helicopters Kager can bring out. The Mistrals had their use, especially for the island fights, but once they ran out of missiles and didn't have supplies, they kind of met their fates. Um, the island fighting was interesting to watch. I haven't seen anything like that in a long time, so that was genuinely fun to watch. Even though it's kind of like a little microcosm of the bigger game in the match. Um, fighting for that +1 is always kind of nice to watch.
One thing I will add in kind of at the end here is really, really, really solid job by the Red Brigade on their anti-ship strikes.
Yeah,
Extremely tightly coordinated, extreme concentration of force, and without mercy, without pity, absolutely tearing those Lafayette's to pieces. And I'm not exactly cheering for Blue 4. I cheer for the teams, but not necessarily the choice of units. And I was happy to see those Lafayette's go down in flames.
yeah, it's always nice to see the how do you say your old enemies fall, in that way. Because
Perhaps a little bit
we
of catharsis.
oh yeah, we've seen those Lafayettes do some work, and their medium stealth is pretty cheesy, along with their high ECM. But once they finally do go down, the catharsis sets in. All right.
All right.
Then with all that, thank you for watching, everybody, and we'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Thanks for watching.